Well, heading overseas now, Russian forces are gaining major ground in their invasion of Ukraine, now claiming to control 97% of the Luhansk region in the east.
Well, this just does not bode well for Ukrainian troops, which are reportedly taking heavy losses on the front line. Let's get a wrap now on the Ukraine-Russia conflict with a retired military general in the Australian Army, Mick. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us again this morning. Let's talk about what's actually happening on the ground here. Russian troops obviously gaining ground in the east here, and Russia is claiming to have 97% control of the Luhansk region. And they're actually preparing to recognize it as an independent state, as they did with the Donbass region as well. How significant is this progress? Where does Russia then go from here?
Well, good morning. This is a significant tactical gain for the Russians, but we should keep in mind they've had to concentrate almost the entirety of their offensive combat power in Ukraine to achieve even these, what on the ground actually aren't large territorial gains. So this is a tactical success for the Russians, but elsewhere in Ukraine, the Ukrainians are taking back ground in the south. They've won the Battle of Kiev and Kharkiv. So we need to keep these Russian successes in perspective.
Okay, Ukraine, as you say, is also not doing as badly, but they are appealing for more weapons from their Western allies. Now, this war does seem to be dragging on a lot longer than expected. And as we're seeing global inflation rates rise, as we're seeing, the tightening of energy supplies, there is a fear that there could be a global recession. How much more support will these Western allies provide Ukraine as the conflict continues to drag on?
Well, pretty much every war in history has dragged on far longer than anyone ever expected. And this war is absolutely no difference there. The Russians in particular have a massive advantage in artillery and rocket artillery, which the West really needs to assist Ukraine to redress that balance. I mean, this is a massive overmatch that the Russians have that we need to assist the Ukrainians with. This is a war of a scale and with the kind of stakes that we haven't seen for many decades. This is a war about the kind of world that we wish to live in. It's going to go on for a while, and the democracies of the West will have to be patient and continue to provide support to Ukraine if we wish to overcome these kind of vicious, aggressive, authoritarian regimes, of which Russia is just one example.
I want to go back to a development that occurred just over the week, and two Britons and a Moroccan fighting in Ukraine and fighting against the Russian forces have been taken into custody. They now, by the Russians, and they now face a death sentence, and they're being called mercenaries here. They are foreigners, and they claim to be fighting for the Ukrainian army. Explain to us the grey area here that these three find themselves in. Are they mercenaries, or are they actually fighting for the Ukrainian army and part of the troops?
Well, it appears that these three were lawfully enlisted in the Ukrainian armed forces, and therefore under international law and the Geneva Conventions, they're entitled to protections as prisoners of war. The Donetsk People's Republic, who captured them and put on this ridiculous mock show trial, really has singled them out to send a message to other foreigners who might wish to assist Ukraine. Don't come, we're going to target you. But these three are lawful combatants and should be treated as prisoners of war.
Mick, they say that military analysts and academics learn so much from every single war. What is it about this particular conflict that has either surprised you or you've learned something new about strategy, military strategy?
Well, I think we have relearned lots of old lessons, primarily about both sides get a vote when it comes to these kind of conflicts. The Russians have not been as competent as many analysts expected. the Ukrainians have fought way better than many expected. So most wars actually don't teach us too many new things. They reinforce old lessons, and in particular, the centrality of human beings in conflict, regardless of the amounts of new technologies that might be involved.
Earlier on in our conversation, you mentioned that there is a need for Western democracies to stand up against these aggressive regimes like Russia. The UK and the US are providing, of course, unwavering support for the Ukrainians. Has this become the West's proxy war with Moscow, and Ukraine now finds itself the pawn in all of this?
Well, I think the nations of the West that are supporting Ukraine responded in a way that Russia did not expect. Russia expected the West to largely acquiesce to this like it did with Crimea and the Donbass back in 2014. It has been surprised. So this is challenging this notion of Western decline that President Xi, President Putin have been selling around the world. The real question now is how much strategic patience the West will be able to show over the coming months and years with this conflict.
It certainly will be interesting, but we thank you so much for sharing your insights with us this morning on Weekend Breakfast. Retired Military General in the Australian Army there, Mick Ryan, thank you.
Thank you.